JavaScript is an essential language for web development, and understanding its nuances is key to becoming a proficient developer. Today, we're diving into a fundamental concept: arrow functions versus regular functions. We'll explore their origins, why they're used, and how to apply them in your code. As we get started, it's important to know that functions are the building blocks of any JavaScript application. They allow us to encapsulate code for reuse, manage the flow of data, and maintain the structure of our applications. In this video, we'll break down the history of these functions, examine their syntax, discuss how they handle the this keyword, and look at practical use cases. JavaScript has been around since the mid-90s, and for much of its history, functions were written in the traditional way, using the function keyword. This method has served developers well, but as applications grew more complex, the need for more concise and flexible syntax became apparent. In 2015, ECMAScript 6, also known as ES6, was introduced. This was a major update to JavaScript, bringing a host of new features designed to make the language more powerful and easier to work with. Among these features was the arrow function, which quickly became popular for its brevity and the way it handled the this keyword. Let's take a quick look at how functions evolved from ES5 to ES6. Here is a simple function that adds two numbers in the traditional ES5 syntax. Now here's the same function rewritten as an arrow function in ES6. Now let's dive into the syntax difference. A traditional function might look like this. An arrow function simplifies this by removing the function keyword and using the arrow symbol. Here's the same function as an arrow function. For a simpler one-liner, you can make it even shorter by omitting the curly braces and the return keyword like this. One thing to note is that when you have a single parameter function, you can omit the parentheses. For example, the square function right here. However, if there are no parameters or more than one, you'll need to include the parentheses. Here is a no parameter function with only empty parentheses. Arrow function also allow for an implicit return, meaning you can return a value without using the return keyword, provided you omit the curly braces, like the multiply function here or even the add function right there. However, if you include curly braces, you'll need to use the return statement explicitly. I'm using the curly braces, so I'm using the return statement right here. One of the most critical differences between regular and arrow function is how they handle the this keyword. In regular function, this refers to the object that is calling the function, which is determined at runtime. Here is an example of code showing a regular function in an object and how this refers to the object itself. In contrast, arrow functions do not have their own this binding. Instead, they inherit this from the surrounding context, which is often the enclosing function or the global scope. So in this function, this does not refer to the person anymore, so the output will be undefined. This difference can lead to unexpected results if you're not careful. Arrow functions are best used in scenarios where you want to maintain the context of this from the surrounding scope. A common use case where this distinction is important is in event handling. Let's say you're working with a button click event. In this case, this refers to the button that was clicked, but if we use an arrow function, this refers to the surrounding scope, which is likely the global window object in a browser environment. This subtle difference can be crucial depending on what you're trying to achieve. Arrow functions are particularly useful in scenarios where you need concise callbacks, like in array methods. Let's look at some examples. Here we use the map method to double each number in the array. The arrow function makes this code short and easy to read. Similarly, in this filter method, we quickly identify even number. And in this reduce method, we sum up the numbers in the array. In each case, the arrow function allows for clean and readable code. Arrow functions are also great for event handlers, especially when you want to preserve the context of this. Here's an example where we can use an arrow function to handle a button click event. This can be particularly useful in classes or components where you want to ensure that this refers to the expected context. However, there are situations where arrow function should be avoided. For example, if you're defining a method on an object, using a regular function is better because you may need this to refer to the object itself, like in this case. Also, arrow function cannot be used as constructors and should not be used where dynamic this binding is required. When it comes to performance, the difference between arrow functions and regular functions are minimal in most cases. Arrow functions are slightly faster in some scenarios due to their concise syntax, but the difference is generally negligible for typical use cases. In terms of memory usage, Arrow functions can be more efficient when used within array methods or a short callback, but again, the difference is usually minor. The key takeaway here is that the decision to use an arrow function should be driven by readability, maintainability, and the specific needs of your code, rather than performance considerations. To wrap things up, we've covered the history of arrow functions, their syntax differences, how they handle the this keyword, and when and why to use them. Understanding these nuances is crucial for writing clean, efficient JavaScript code. Both arrow functions and regular functions have their place in modern JavaScript development. By mastering their differences, you can make informed decisions about which to use in your projects, leading to more maintainability and readable code. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more programming tutorials. Have any question or topic you'd like to cover, drop a comment. See you next time.